Hi there, I'm Eitan, and welcome back to the Wix Wiz. In this quick tutorial, I'm going to be showing you how to add this little version marker here to the bottom of your Wix website, which can essentially tell you which version of your site is currently published, so that if you make changes to your site and then publish them, you will be able to see that change in the version, which can be great for tracking things during development stages, and also to know which version of your site somebody is viewing, for example, if you are using the release manager. So if you want to learn all that and more, let's get started. So in order to implement this versioning, what we're going to do is use the revision API. And this is part of the Wix site front end. And if you scroll down over here, you can see revision. And in a nutshell, what this is it's basically a unique ID for each revision or version, quote unquote, of your site. And it will change every time you save or publish your site. Based on the documentation here, Wix says that there's no significant meaning to these IDs, and it could technically be random, but from what I've seen, they usually tend to be sequential and correspond with the current version of your site. So if we go into the editor, all we'll have to do is to import Wix site frontend and then find our revision. So I'm going to copy over this boilerplate code and let's head over to our site. And I'm going to be pasting this code inside of the master page. So I'm going to go here to the page code, and then I'm going to scroll down here to master page, and I'm going to open it. And the reason I'm going to be putting it over here is because I want this code to be accessible from all the pages of the site, because I'm going to be putting a representation of this version inside of my footer. So let me paste this right over here. And what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to take this line and I'm going to move it inside of the onReady function. The import I'm going to leave on top. And what I'm going to do now as a first step is I'm just going to console.log revision, just so that I can show you what the revision is. And I'm going to add text as well, just so that we can see it. Okay, so let's go ahead and publish our site. And I'm going to open up the live site and open up the developer tools. And you can see here that we're on revision 74 for the site. And if I go ahead to my site and I click publish, and then I go ahead and I refresh over here, then you can see here that we're at revision 75. So this can be really useful if you're publishing a lot and you want to see which version of the site that you're on. There are other use cases for this as well, such as, for example, sometimes you can allow people to see one of the versions and other people to see the other. For example, if you're using the release manager. So I'll show you that in a moment as well. But for now, what I want to do is I want to put the representation of this on the bottom so we can visually see it and we don't have to go into the console and see it. Then again, if you don't want to expose this information to people who are visiting your site, then you might not want to put a visual representation of it. So I'm going to just add a text element, and it'll be a really small, and I'm going to change it to say version, and I'll align it here to the right, and I'm going to put this here inside of like the bottom of my footer, and I'm going to change the naming of that here to uh, let's call it version, and I'm going to open up my master page, and what I'm going to do now is I'm going to assign the value of the revision to that text. So let's go over here, and I'm going to select the version, and I'm going to say dot text should be equal to, and I'll use a template literal here, and I'll say v, and then I'll put the revision. Okay, and now I can get rid of this console log over here because I don't really need that. And I'm going to go ahead and publish my site. And now if I go ahead, close the console, and I refresh, then all the way here on the bottom of my site, I can see version 76. And if I go ahead and publish, then I can see version 77. Okay, so I know that my publish went through and that it was successful. Let's see what happens if we save our site. So I'm curious if this is going to change if we save our site as well. So I'm just going to go ahead and click save. And let me go ahead and make another change, let's say. Let me add in an element. And let me save again. And I'm going to go ahead and hit publish. And let's see now what we see down here on the bottom. So here we see 79. So that's like one save and one publish. So I guess it depends what changes you make before you make the save or not. But essentially we see that a save also bumped up that version once. So you'll have to note that it's not necessarily only going to go up one every time you publish, but it can definitely help you check between two published versions of your site. Especially if, as I said, you're using the version control. So for example, if you go here to Site, and then you go to Release Manager, okay, right over here. Then you can see here, first of all, that the version that is written over here is corresponding to the version that we have on our site. Okay, so there obviously is some significance and meaning to that number, even if Wix says otherwise. And in order to create a version that's released only to part of the public, essentially what we have to do is to create a test site. So let me go ahead and do that. So I'm going to go and I'm going to create a test site. And you'll notice here that within the test site URL, let me go ahead and show you this test site URL. So you can see here that site revision 79. So that's also that same version. So there's definitely some logic here that's connecting everything. And we can go to the release manager and give a partial exposure, okay, just like we did before. And so here the live site is also 79 and the test site is also 79. But if I was to make some kind of changes to my site and then create a new test site, then we'd have essentially two versions. And here I can edit the exposure and, for example, change the exposure to 50%. Okay, so now 50% will see the live site and 50% will see the test site. And then essentially I can use the versioning on the bottom to know which version of the site, let's say somebody's looking at. If I have a support ticket or something like that, then I can ask them, oh, go check that little number on the bottom. What does it say? Oh, that means you're having this version of the site, and that's why you're having this and this issue, possibly. So yeah, it's also cool for dev, like if you're developing your site and you're publishing a lot and you want to know which version you're on, I think it could be very helpful. And I'm going to wrap up here. I hope you found this little tip interesting and useful. If you did, don't forget to give a like for the video, comment if you have any questions, and subscribe to the channel. And if you do, I will see you next time.